Welcome to In the Shadow of the Most High, How to Live Fully Protected by God, a transformative journey inspired by the teachings of Emmet Fox. Imagine a safe refuge, a place where nothing and no one can disturb your peace, where every challenge becomes an opportunity to grow and strengthen your spirit. This audiobook is not just a guide. It is a call to live under divine protection, to experience the security and serenity that only deep faith can offer. Every word will bring you closer to understanding how to align with the power of the Most High, how to find shelter in His shadow, and how to walk through life with the certainty that nothing can shake you. Prepare to open your heart and let the wisdom of God transform your life today and always. We live in a world where security seems increasingly fragile. Men and women seek protection in 1,000 ways: amulets, rituals, formulas, locked doors, inherited superstitions. Many believe that divine protection is a matter of luck, privilege, or special favor, and they wonder why, even when invoking God, life still seems so uncertain. Yet true protection, the only real and permanent protection, does not come from the outside, nor from objects, ceremonies, or sanctified places. Divine protection is a state of consciousness, an internal experience of unity with the good, founded on exact spiritual laws, not on the whims of chance. This distinction is fundamental. Superstitious religion attributes power to the external: repeated words, images, gestures, or sacred places. It seeks security outside and moves between fear of punishment and hope for favors. Spiritual, scientific understanding, on the other hand, knows that all experience arises from the mind, that God is not far away, separate, or distributing luck at random. True protection is the fruit of elevated consciousness, of ordered thought aligned with truth. Psalm 91, one of the most sublime texts of Scripture, declares, "He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." This statement does not speak of physical locations, but of mental states. Dwelling in the secret place of the Most High is living in permanent contact with God's presence. It is not an emergency refuge for times of danger, but the habitual residence of the awakened soul. Those who dwell there, who do not need amulets, anxious prayers, or borrowed protection, live safely because they know deeply that nothing external has power over them. The shadow of the Almighty is not an arbitrary miracle, but the natural consequence of a mind unified with the principle. The mental law is the great key to spiritual protection. Just as the body responds to physical law, experience responds to the law of thought. If you fear, danger follows. If you trust, security manifests. Change your way of thinking, and the world you inhabit will change as well. I have seen again and again men and women pass through crises, illnesses, and disasters unharmed, not by luck or privilege, but because they changed their consciousness, stopped feeding fear, and began affirming the truth. Fear is the open door to danger. Faith is the invisible wall of the soul. The Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus taught about divine providence, reinforces this principle. "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them." Matthew 6:25-26. There is no promise of exception or favoritism, only a call to trust the law, to recognize that life is sustained from within, not from without. I invite you to begin this path with an introductory spiritual affirmation. I acknowledge that the presence of God surrounds me now. I fear no evil because I live in the secret place of the Most High. My thoughts are firmly rooted in truth, and my life is secure under the shadow of the Almighty. I give thanks that it is so, under the shadow of the Most High. Based on the teachings of Emmet Fox, we have noticed that more than 80% of visitors to our channel are not subscribed. You can support this project by pressing the subscribe button and liking the video. Thank you for inspiring us to continue creating more and better content for you. Are you ready to transform your life? Chapter 1. The Great Truth. There is no power outside of God. We live in a world where security seems increasingly fragile. Men and women seek protection in countless ways: amulets, rituals, formulas, locked doors, inherited superstitions. Many believe that divine protection is a matter of luck, privilege, or special favor, and they wonder why, even when invoking God, life still seems so uncertain. Yet true protection, the only real and lasting protection, does not come from the outside. It does not come from objects, ceremonies, or sanctified places. Divine protection is a state of consciousness, an internal experience of unity with the good, founded on precise spiritual laws, not on the whims of chance. This distinction is fundamental. Superstitious religion attributes power to the external, repeated words, images, gestures, or sacred locations. It seeks security outside itself, moving between fear of punishment and hope for favors. Spiritual, scientific understanding, on the other hand, knows that all experience arises from the mind, that God is neither distant nor separate nor randomly distributing fortune. True protection is the fruit of elevated consciousness, of orderly thought aligned with truth. The universe, from the humblest blade of grass to the most imposing star, lives and moves within the consciousness of a single power, a single cause, a single principle: God. This is the fundamental truth, the cornerstone of all security, all protection, and all freedom. Pause for a moment. Let these words descend gently into the depths of your soul. There is no power outside of God. It may seem like a simple, even repetitive statement. Yet all of human history can be summarized as the struggle, sometimes silent, sometimes tragically violent, between those who accept the oneness of God and those who, confused by appearances, attribute power to shadows, fear, circumstances, clay idols, or inner phantoms. Why is it so difficult to accept, live, and breathe this truth? Because the visible world, education, traditions, and customs have trained us from childhood to focus more on appearances than on cause, more on effect than principle. The human mind tends to seek explanations in multiplicity, to divide good from evil, possible from impossible, safe from unsafe. Yet at the root of everything lies the single principle. There cannot be two real powers, for that would make order, harmony, and coherence in the universe impossible. If there were even a single instant, a single molecule, a single circumstance in which another power manifested outside of God, the cosmos would collapse into chaos. But the truth is that God is everything, and outside him there is absolutely nothing. Let me reveal a secret as ancient as creation itself. Fear is the only real danger, not because it has substance of its own, but because it is the belief in another power, a second cause, a shadow capable of challenging the light. Each time you fear, you are in reality worshipping a false god, surrendering your faith, your creative power, to something that has no existence in itself. Fear is the tribute ignorance pays to illusion. Have you ever observed a small child before being indoctrinated by the fears of the world? They do not fear the dark because they do not believe anything exists outside the light. They do not suspect that illness, failure, or danger could touch them, because their mind naturally lives in a state of humility, trust, and security. But gradually, adults, society, and voices from the past begin to sow the idea of opposing forces, conflicting wills, mysterious causes. Thus arise amulets, superstitious rituals, prayers born of fear, desperate attempts to appease lesser gods. But I assure you, there is no power outside of God. The Bible is unequivocal. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Deuteronomy 6:4. Have you ever paused to consider the weight of these words? It does not say the Lord is the greatest, the strongest, or the first among many. It says he is one. This oneness, by definition, excludes the existence of any other power, visible or invisible. Yet why does danger, evil, suffering, accidents, or loss appear to exist? Here is where most people stumble. They confuse appearance with reality. What we experience as evil is merely the reflection in our own consciousness of faith placed in something other than God. Each time we believe in the possibility of harm, we lend our creative energy to fear, and so, as Job says, "What I feared has come upon me." Job 3:25. It is not a matter of denying the existence of difficult situations or closing your eyes to the facts, but of denying them real spiritual power. That is scientific denial. When Daniel was thrown into the lion's den, he did not close his eyes or mentally flee. He recognized the situation but denied it the power to destroy him, because he knew the only force present was God. The same was true for the 3 young men in the fiery furnace. They entered the trial but did not give power to the flames, only to the principle of life. The result was protection, not by magic, not by exception, but by law. Fear is inverted prayer. When you fear, you pray backward, affirm, decree, and uphold the reality of that which you do not desire. Therefore, the first step toward true protection is to withdraw your faith from everything that is not God. Examine your mind. What gods have you given power to? To what circumstances, people, illnesses, situations, or probabilities have you attributed the ability to disturb your peace? Make a mental list. Do not do it hastily or superficially. Each of those idols is a current of mental energy that feeds fear and weakens your consciousness of protection. Do not confuse prudence with fear. Prudence is divine intelligence in action. It is knowing the fire burns and not putting your hand in it. Fear, however, is imagining that fire can act outside the law of God, that it can jump the fence of divine order and harm where there is no real cause for harm. Fear is the belief in possible disorder. Prudence recognizes the law and respects it, but never fears, because it knows the law is always on the side of good. How then is fear dismantled? By scientific denial. This does not mean repeating empty phrases or denying the facts, but denying that the facts have power in themselves. When faced with a threatening situation, say mentally, with authority and calm, there is no power outside of God. This situation has no power in itself. The only power here is God's power for good. Do it calmly with faith, with the certainty of one affirming a law, not a hope. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Psalm 27, 1. When you repeat this affirmation, it is not an emotional comfort. It is a statement of fact, a law of your being. Light dissipates shadow not through struggle, but through presence. Good dissolves evil, because evil is absence, not substance. As when you open a window and darkness flees, so the consciousness of God dissolves fear, insecurity, and danger. I invite you to perform a simple but powerful exercise. Each time you feel fear, do not fight it. Do not scold yourself. Do not be anxious. Recognize it as what it is, the manifestation of an old mental habit. Then direct your attention to God. Do not think of fear, think of presence. Repeat, there is only one power, the power of God. There is only one cause, the divine cause, and there is only one law, the law of good. Remain thus until you feel peace. Sometimes the mind will rebel, reminding you of past accidents, alarming news, grim statistics, inherited superstitions. Remember that all this information is merely the echo of others' fears, not the voice of truth. When in doubt, return to the principle. If fear persists, reaffirm, there is no power outside of God. It is the hammer of truth breaking down the fortress of illusion. I have seen men and women in the darkest days of the Great Depression, surrounded by ruin and despair, remain serene and invulnerable because they clung to this truth. I have seen mothers protect their children not with talismans or fearful prayers, but with the inner peace of one who knows they dwell under the shadow of the Most High. I have witnessed the sick, amid the bleakest diagnoses, rise to perfect health when they denied the power of illness and affirmed the power of God. These are not isolated cases nor miracles reserved for a few. It is law, and the law makes no exceptions. And you, what powers have you surrendered your peace to? What fears have you opened the door to in your consciousness? Today you can begin to withdraw power from everything that is not God. You will not do it all at once, for the mind has memory and habits. But if you begin today, here and now, make this scientific denial your daily habit. Do it upon waking, upon retiring, when facing any shadow. Soon your consciousness will be an impregnable stronghold, a refuge where no external storm can touch you. Remember finally that Jesus himself lived this truth. He did not flee the storm. He denied it. He did not avoid the sick. He denied the reality of disease. He did not fear the cross. He denied that death had the power to separate man from God. Following his example, walk through life without fear, without superstition, without mental idolatry. Close your eyes now and affirm slowly and deeply, there is no power outside of God. I am one with that power. I am protected, guided, and sustained by omnipotence. I fear no shadow, for the Lord is my light and my salvation. Let this prayer be the seed of a new life, a life in which nothing and no one can disturb your peace. For truly I tell you, there is no power outside of God. Chapter 2. Dwelling in the secret place, the consciousness of God. There is a promise in Scripture that echoes through the centuries. with the solemn resonance of truth. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Psalm 91, 1. This statement is not pious poetry, nor comfort for the weak, nor a magical formula for times of danger. It is a scientific declaration, a spiritual principle as precise as any law of nature. Dwelling, abiding, remaining. And here lies the key. It does not say he who visits, or he who comes occasionally, but he who dwells. What does it mean to dwell? It is not difficult to illustrate. Think of the difference between the house you live in and the house of a friend you visit occasionally. In your own home, you know every corner. You know where the light is even at night. Everything feels natural, belonging to you. The friend's house, however comfortable, does not belong to you. Your relationship with it is temporary, superficial. The same is true of the consciousness of God. Some visit it only when need presses, when the storm rages. But the rest of the time, their minds dwell elsewhere, on worry, judgment, fear, or routine. Only those who make the divine presence their constant dwelling can experience automatic protection, peace independent of circumstances, serenity born of union. To dwell in the secret place of the Most High means to live continuously in the awareness of God's presence. It is not about retreating into the desert or escaping the world. The secret place is not a cave, nor a hidden temple, nor a mysterious geography. It is your private mental life, the stream of thoughts, feelings, and beliefs that form your true inner home. Each of us lives where our mind dwells. You can dwell in fear, in the past, in anxiety about the future, or you can choose to dwell in God here and now. Is this possible in everyday life? Can a man or woman live in the consciousness of God while washing dishes, driving in the city, caring for children, or handling difficult tasks? The answer is yes, and this is the great secret that transforms life. God is not far away, God is here. God is not in another time, God is now. You do not need to close your eyes or isolate yourself from the world. It is enough to frequently remember the presence that surrounds and sustains you at all times. The practice of God's presence is primarily a mental habit. Like all habits, it forms through repetition and intention. At first, the distracted mind easily drifts, chasing worries, memories, external voices, or automatic impulses. But if you persist, if you return again and again to the presence, you will soon discover that you can live on two levels at once, performing your tasks while knowing deep within that God is in you and with you. Do not confuse occasional prayer with continuous consciousness. Many pray in the morning and at night, while their mind spends the rest of the day immersed in the world. Prayer then becomes a visit, not a dwelling. But one who cultivates the habit of the presence transforms every action into prayer, every breath into communion, every moment into an opportunity to remember. In Him we live, move, and have our being. Acts 17:28. Allow me to teach a simple but powerful practice, the golden hour. Each day upon waking, dedicate a few minutes to establishing the awareness of God in your mind. No matter how busy you are, if you can wash your face, you can also clear your mind. Before habitual thoughts sweep you away, affirm, God is here, God is now. I dwell in the secret place of the Most High. I am safe, guided, loved. Remain silent for a few moments, letting this truth penetrate like sunlight through curtains. If thoughts of worry arise, do not push them away violently. Watch them pass and return again and again to the affirmation, God is here, God is now. Over time, this golden hour will begin to permeate the rest of your day. Pause occasionally. You can set discrete reminders like a keyword in your pocket or a mark on your watch and ask, where is my mind now? If you find it wandering in fear or judgment, gently bring it back. No one expects instant perfection, but each return strengthens the habit of dwelling in the presence. Imagine your consciousness as a golden thread weaving through all the day's activities. You can be in the midst of the bustle, solving problems or listening to others, and at the same time maintain, even subtly, the thought, God is here. This golden thread grows stronger with practice until no external wind can break it. Protection becomes automatic for those who dwell in God. Danger can only reach you if your consciousness is exposed, vulnerable, identified with fear or separation. But one who dwells continuously in the awareness of God cannot be touched by evil, for evil is only the absence of God in the mind, never in reality. It is like living in a house with doors and windows securely closed. The storm may rage outside, but inside reigns calm. Where shall I go from your spirit? Or where shall I flee from your presence? Psalm 139, 7. Truly there is no place where God is not, but the only place where his presence can be lost from view is within your own mind. Throughout my life, I have seen laborers, mothers, merchants, children, and the elderly practice this sublime art amidst ordinary life. One would quietly repeat on the walk to work, God is with me, God guides my steps. Another, amid household tasks, intoned silently, divine love surrounds me here and now. And so the atmosphere of their lives changed. Accidents became impossible, health flourished, peace was unshakable. No special requirements exist to dwell in the secret place of the Most High. You do not need to belong to a social class, study complicated doctrines, or retreat from the world. All that is needed is the will to remember, to return, to choose again and again, presence over absence, faith over fear, unity over separation. Every thought of God is a brick in the inner dwelling. Every lapse, a window open to confusion, but return, and the house fills with light once more. Here is a practical exercise. Stop your mind for even a brief moment and repeat, God is here, God is now. Do it at work, at rest, in transit, in conversation. Do it silently, with humility and perseverance. Soon you will notice a subterranean current of peace and security flowing in your life, unexplainable to others, natural to you. If at any moment you feel anxiety, fear, or discouragement, perform this spiritual treatment. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and affirm calmly, I dwell in the secret place of the Most High. No harm can reach me, for I am one with the presence of God. My mental life is an inviolable sanctuary. Nothing can disturb the peace of my soul. Wherever I go, God goes with me. Remain thus for a few minutes, allowing truth to replace without struggle any opposing appearance. Remember always, your private mental life is your true refuge. No one may enter there without your permission. There, deep within, you can construct a sanctuary, a closed space where God and your soul are one. Make this sanctuary your dwelling, not an occasional hiding place. Do not wait for a crisis to seek refuge. Live in it, breathe in it, act in it. And when night comes, before sleep, review your day. Have I dwelt in the presence? Have I allowed my mind to be God's dwelling? Or have I made it a place of fear and worry? Do not blame yourself. Do not judge yourself. Simply decide to begin anew each morning with the golden hour, with the golden thread of consciousness, with the decision to dwell, not merely visit, the secret place. Close this chapter meditating on the psalmist's words. Where shall I go from your spirit? Or where shall I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, behold, you are there. Psalm 139, 7, 8. Let these words become flesh in your consciousness. Allow yourself today, and every day, to dwell in the presence of God. Chapter 3. The Shield of Faith, Protection Through Right Thinking. Faith is the invisible substance with which the soul builds its walls of protection. It is not a mere feeling, an uncertain hope, or the automatic repetition of inherited dogmas. It is the creative activity of the mind when aligned with truth. It is spiritual law in action. When you understand this, you realize that true faith is not an ornament of religion, nor a prize for the virtuous. It is the shield that deflects, dissolves, and nullifies any appearance of danger before it can manifest in your life. Faith is a mental activity. It is not an emotional impulse or a passing exaltation, but the deliberate and conscious act of focusing your thought on God, on the good, on the one principle that sustains the universe. Many have been taught to consider faith as a matter of feelings. If I feel peace, I have faith. If I do not feel it, I am lost. But this is a trap. Feelings fluctuate. Thought is the lever. Those who learn to exercise faith as a mental discipline, not an emotional state, become masters of their destiny. Faith in God, exercised scientifically and deliberately, is instant protection. For wherever consciousness unites with the cause, no shadow can penetrate. Remember, fear is faith in evil. It is the same mental energy oriented in the opposite direction. That is why a consciousness saturated with true faith is impenetrable to fear. Where there is faith, fear cannot exist. Where fear is present, faith has been displaced. These are mutually exclusive states, like light and darkness in a room. You cannot turn on the light and simultaneously expect shadow to reign. How is fear displaced from consciousness? It is not fought, it is replaced. Imagine a cup filled with murky water. How do you clean it? You do not hit it, nor deny it. You simply pour pure water, drop by drop, and the impurity disappears. Similarly, introduce thoughts of God, affirmations of faith, and memories of past demonstrations, and gradually the mental atmosphere clears. Fear flees because it has no substance of its own, only that which you give it. The relationship between faith and manifestation is as precise as any physical law. On the mental plane, to believe is to create. What you hold in faith in the mind will eventually crystallize in external experience. That is why Jesus said, "According to your faith, let it be done to you." Matthew 9:29. He did not say according to your prayers or according to your despair, but according to your faith. If you fear, even secretly, you manifest the shadow of fear. If you trust in God, you manifest the light of His presence. However, many fall into the trap of intellectual faith. They know the theory, repeat the words, approve the doctrine, but in the depths of their hearts cultivate doubt, skepticism, and distrust. Faith of the heart is different. It is the inner certainty that needs no external proof because it knows, because it recognizes, because it is one with truth. Intellectual faith says, "I know God can protect me." Faith of the heart affirms, "I know I am already protected." The first waits for signs, the second rests in the fact. Be careful not to fall into the error of having faith in faith itself. Some believe faith is a force in itself, a kind of magical power separate from God. It is not. Faith is the bridge, but the power is in the presence it connects to. If you place your faith in faith itself, you become a slave to effort and tension. If you place your faith in God, you rest in the principle, and protection becomes natural, inevitable, automatic. Allow me now to give you the faith treatment for situations that appear dangerous. Whenever a threat arises, whether news, a diagnosis, a family problem, or worry about the future, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and affirm mentally, "God is here and now. I live, move, and exist in His presence. I do not fear because I know in whom I have believed. My faith is my shield. Nothing can touch me except the good of God. I trust, and therefore I am safe." Repeat this treatment calmly. Do not do it as one fights an enemy, but as one turns on the light in darkness. Faith does not need to shout. Its power lies in stillness, in deep conviction. The more natural this exercise becomes, the less room fear will have. To strengthen faith within, practice the exercise of remembering past demonstrations. Everyone, even the most skeptical, can recall moments in their personal history when a distressing situation was unexpectedly resolved, a door opened, or help arrived just in time. Remember these events. Do not attribute them to chance or bury them in forgetfulness. Each demonstration is a stone on the altar of your faith. The more you recall it, the easier it is to trust the next time. Use scientific faith affirmations. Do not seek grandiose words. Seek clarity and precision. You can say, "God is, therefore I am safe. His presence protects me. His love sustains me. His wisdom guides me. Nothing can come between God and me." Make these affirmations your mental shield, especially when doubt tries to infiltrate. Observe how faith acts in the great biblical stories. Abraham, called to leave his land without knowing where he was going, trusted the inner voice. Job, stripped of all, held his faith until he saw full restoration. Peter, defying logic, walked on water while keeping his eyes on the Master. When doubt arose, he began to sink. It is always the same. Faith sustains, doubt sinks. Appearance does not matter. The direction of your inner gaze does. Now pause for a moment and practice the technique to transform worry into faith in real time. When you feel anxious, stop the thought, acknowledge the unease, and mentally say, "I am worried, but now I choose to trust. I choose to think of God, not the problem. I choose faith, not fear. My attention determines my experience." Do this as often as necessary. You will see worry lose strength and peace return. Meditate on Hebrews 11. 1. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Faith is not hoping for the improbable. It is knowing that the invisible is as real as the visible, and that by the law of the mind, what you hold in secret will manifest eventually in the open. Do not confuse this teaching with self-deception or denial of reality. It is not about closing your eyes to danger, but seeing beyond appearance and affirming the real cause. At first, you may need to repeat the treatment many times, as old mental habits do not vanish immediately. But if you are persistent, you will discover that true faith is the surest shield, for it does not depend on external forces but on the living relationship between your mind and God. Remember always, you cannot fear and trust at the same time. They are opposite paths like light and shadow. Choose faith, cultivate it with every thought, protect it as your most precious treasure. Make it your shield and your strength, for faith used scientifically and consciously is the key to all protection, all peace, all victory. Close this chapter with this serene, profound affirmation: God is, and because God is, I am safe. Nothing can separate me from good. I live in faith, I walk in faith, I am protected by faith. My life is in God's hands, and therefore I am secure. Let these words be your refuge and your shield. Let true faith be the atmosphere in which you breathe, think, and live. Chapter 4. Denying Power to Danger, the Art of Scientific Negation. Fear, the silent shadow that walks with humanity from childhood, finds its nourishment in a single belief, the idea that there is power outside of God. No matter the disguise it takes, accident, illness, violence, loss, or catastrophe, all apparent danger rests upon the same mental error, giving power to illusion, attributing reality to what is only appearance. This is why scientific negation is one of the most powerful tools in the spiritual art. Let us clarify from the outset. To deny is not to close your eyes, deceive yourself, or reject the reality of visible facts. Scientific negation is to mentally reject the belief in power outside of God. It is to dissolve the root of fear, not by force, but through understanding. Some believe that to negate is irresponsible, a refuge for the weak, or self-deception for the naive. Nothing could be further from the truth. Scientific negation is a precise, clear, logical, and deeply honest mental discipline. It is the recognition that even if the external situation seems threatening, the only real power is goodness, the principle, the presence of God. To deny is to unmask the illusion. It is to see appearance and, without fighting it, declare inwardly, "You have no power over me." What is scientific negation? It is the art of withdrawing the current of your faith from anything that is not God. If fear is inverted faith, negation is unplugging the mind from the source of that illusion. You do not deny the fact that a car is approaching quickly. You deny that it has power over you while you remain in consciousness of God. You do not deny the existence of a disease. You deny that it has power to dominate you, define your life, or separate you from divine health. You do not deny reports of violence or crises. You deny that they have power to penetrate your mental atmosphere. Always remember, to deny power to the no is not to deny the facts, but to deny their interpretation as real threats. It is the difference between seeing a cloud in the sky and assuming it is an inevitable storm, between seeing a rope snake and not panicking because you recognize its true nature. What you resist persists, what you unmask dissolves. The technique of scientific negation consists of clear, simple steps. Recognize the appearance. Do not mentally flee. Face the situation directly, whatever form it takes. Withdraw your faith. Say internally, "This situation has no power of its own. It has no authority to harm me or disturb my peace. There is only one power, the power of God for good." Affirm the truth. Hold calmly and firmly in your mind, the only power here is God's. Health, harmony, protection, and peace are established realities. Remain at peace. Do not fight. Do not try to convince yourself forcibly. Let the affirmation act like light dissolving shadow. Repeat if necessary. Observe the transformation. Remain open to the changes, large or small, that the consciousness of truth produces in your external experience. Now memorize and use the formula of scientific negation. There is no power in this situation except the power of God for good. Make this phrase your shield and your sword. When a thought of fear arises, do not struggle with it. Simply pause, breathe, and affirm calmly, "There is no power in this except God's." Next, perform this writing exercise. Make a personal list of all the fears roaming your mind, large or small, and beside each, write the specific negation. If you fear illness, there is no power in illness, only the power of God for health. If you fear loss, there is no power in scarcity, only the power of God for provision. If you fear accident, there is no power in chance, only the power of God for order and protection. Repeat these treatments whenever fear attempts to take control. It is important to avoid mental resistance. Scientific negation is not an internal battle. If you insist on fighting the shadow, you reinforce it. If instead you hold the truth like one lights a lamp at night, darkness disappears by itself. The key is serenity and constancy, not brute force. Apply this to concrete situations. Facing an accident, acknowledge the fact, but affirm, there is no power outside of God. Divine protection operates here and now. Facing illness beyond diagnoses and symptoms, declare, health is God's will. The appearance has no real power. Facing financial loss or scarcity, proclaim, God's abundance is my inexhaustible source. Nothing external can take away what God gives. Facing news of violence, catastrophe, or crisis, affirm, there is no power in the appearance of evil. Good is the supreme reality. God's peace reigns here. Jesus himself taught scientific negation in the Gospels. When the storm threatened the boat, he did not argue with the wind, nor fear the waves. He simply spoke from the consciousness of unity. Peace, be still. Mark 4:39. He did not plead for protection. He denied the power of the storm and affirmed divine order. Facing disease, he never questioned its origin or accepted its dominion. He declared, rise and walk. Facing death, he affirmed life. Immediate negation is your tool to neutralize fear the moment it arises. Do not let it grow, take root, or gather allies in your mind. Every time it appears, even as the slightest hint, say inwardly, there is no power outside of God, only good is real. Repeat it again and again until negation becomes automatic, natural as blinking at a bright light. Close this chapter with the full spiritual treatment of negation and affirmation. I deny power to all appearances of danger, illness, scarcity, or evil. Nothing can separate me from God's protection and love. I affirm that only good is real, only love is power, only peace is my atmosphere. I am enveloped in divine presence. I am safe, guided, protected, sustained by the one principle. I do not fear because I know in whom I have believed. Remain in silence for a few minutes, allowing this truth to penetrate deeply. And when fear resurfaces, because the human mind is persistent, repeat calmly, there is no power outside of God. There is no power in this situation except God's for good. Thus, day by day, you dismantle the strongholds of fear and dwell in the invulnerable security of one who knows the art of scientific negation. Because to deny power to evil is not to ignore the world, but to redeem it in your consciousness. Chapter 5. Scientific Prayer for Daily Protection. Prayer, when understood scientifically, is the surest bridge between the human being and divine protection. Much has been confused and degraded in prayer, reducing it to a fearful plea, an anxious request that, at its core, affirms our separation from God and our distrust in His care. But true prayer, the prayer taught by the eternal Christ, is not supplication, it is a mental treatment. It is not begging for what we lack, but recognizing what is already ours by the right of consciousness. Let us begin by dismantling the greatest error. Asking for protection is confessing that we do not have it. It is like a child entering a house and asking permission to breathe. God does not grant protection because we beg. He grants it because it is His very nature to care for, sustain, and guide those who live in the awareness of His presence. If you pray from fear, your mind fills with insecurity. If you pray from certainty, your consciousness rises and protection manifests naturally. That is why Jesus taught, do not be like the pagans who think they will be heard because of their many words. Your Father knows what you need before you ask Him. Matthew 6:7-8. Scientific prayer is a mental treatment that changes your consciousness, and by changing your consciousness, you change your experience. It is not the number of words or the fervor of the voice that produces results, but the clarity and faith of thought. The method I teach, tested over many years, consists of 5 steps, which you can adapt to any need. Today we apply them to protection. Recognition. Acknowledge that God is the only power and presence. Everything is contained in Him, and His will is good. Unification. Recognize your unity with God. You are not separate. You are one with the life, wisdom, and love that protect all. Realization. Feel, understand, and affirm in your mind that you are already protected. Safety is your right here and now. Affirmation. Express verbally with conviction that divine protection is active in your life and in the lives of your loved ones. Gratitude. Give thanks for the protection received as one thanks for the sun before stepping onto the path. Let us see how to apply these steps in daily life. Imagine you are about to leave home. Do not turn prayer into a mechanical ritual or a fearful plea. Pause consciously, take a deep breath, and perform the following treatment. Prayer when leaving home. I acknowledge that God is my refuge and my strength, my constant protector. I and all that belongs to me are enveloped in His love. Wherever I go, God goes with me. Every step I take is guided and protected by divine wisdom. No harm can reach me because God's presence surrounds me like a circle of light. I give thanks because this is so. This treatment may take a minute or less, but its effect is profound if done with attention. Do not fear repeating it as often as needed, not to convince God, but to convince your own mind. In urgent situations, when there is no time for lengthy meditation, use the 3-minute protection treatment. There is only one power here, the power of God. I'm surrounded by His light. No harm can touch me. I am safe in divine presence. Thank you, God, because this is so. For travel, adapt the treatment. God is the intelligence guiding this vehicle, plane or ship. Every instrument, every person, every circumstance is under the perfect governance of divine love. I do not fear accident or delay because the Holy Spirit goes before me and prepares the way. I am grateful for complete protection during this journey. When the mind fills with alarming news or rumors of danger, do not argue with the information. Instead, calmly and firmly affirm, the presence of God is my shield. No news, no external event can penetrate the atmosphere of my divine protection. Good reigns here and now. Praying for the protection of loved ones without violating free will. You cannot impose your will, but you can elevate your consciousness and surround your beloved in the circle of light of your faith. Silently say, I acknowledge name as a child of God, protected, guided, and sustained by divine wisdom. I release all fear and trust in God's perfect care. I give thanks because this is so. Do not fall into the error of praying from fear. If your prayer arises from anxiety, pause, quiet your mind, and return to the 5 steps. Pray from certainty, not from distress. Your faith is the atmosphere in which your words breathe. If your mind is saturated with fear, your prayer becomes an empty petition. If filled with faith, every word is a seed of protection. Visualize the circle of golden light. Imagine a warm, radiant light enveloping you and your loved ones. This light is the presence of God, and nothing adverse can penetrate it. It is not a talisman or a spell, but the mental image of a spiritual reality, unbreakable union with good. Adapt these models to every area of life. For financial protection. God's abundance sustains me. My possessions and activities are protected by the law of good. I do not fear loss because my source is divine and secure. Before sleep, perform a nightly protection treatment. I entrust this day to God. I know that while I sleep, His presence watches over me and protects my home. I rest in peace, secure in divine love. Thank you, God, for your constant care. Do not allow scientific prayer to become superstition or a mechanical ritual. It is not the quantity of words or frequency that creates miracles, but the consciousness with which you pray. God does not need repetition. You need awakening. Prayer does not move God's hand. It moves your mind to align with the good that is already yours. Close this chapter with the Master Daily Protection Treatment. There is only one power, the power of God. I dwell in His presence, enveloped in His light, guided by His wisdom, sustained by His love. Nothing can touch me except good. No danger has power in my life. My consciousness is firm in truth and my path is safe. I give thanks, God, because I am protected now and always. Remain in silence for a few minutes, breathing in this truth. Make scientific prayer your daily companion, your refuge, and your joy. And each day remember, it is not supplication that protects, but consciousness of unity with God. Chapter 6, The Angels of God, Understanding Invisible Protection. Since time immemorial, humanity has felt the mysterious presence of invisible forces that protect, guide, and announce the arrival of good. The scriptures are filled with angels, messengers who clear paths, close the mouths of lions, release prisoners, announce births and victories. But what are angels really? Are they winged beings in human form? ethereal spirits descending from the heavens, or perhaps a profound metaphor, a hidden key to understanding how divine protection operates. In spiritual science, angels are ideas of God, pure thoughts, living laws of spirit in action. They are intelligent energies that appear in your consciousness at precisely the right moment, bringing direction, protection, comfort, and guidance. They are not characters from stories, nor entities separate from you, but the very action of the divine principle, guiding and protecting all who are aligned with truth. When Psalm 91 says, "He will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways," it does not describe a parade of celestial figures descending to earth. It speaks of saving ideas, precise intuitions, inner impulses that lead you away from danger and towards safety. Your guardian angel is your own Christ consciousness, the highest part of yourself eternally united with the wisdom of God. Perhaps you remember a moment when you suddenly felt an inexplicable need to change direction, delay a departure, or avoid a decision. Later you realized it had saved you from a greater harm. That impulse was neither superstition nor chance, it was an angel. That is, a divine idea acting in your mind, a guide arising because you were willing to listen. The protection of angels is automatic when your consciousness is aligned with good. Just as the law of gravity supports your body without conscious effort, the laws of spirit care for you when you live in the frequency of truth. You do not need to invoke or convince angels. They come because that is how the law operates. God cannot abandon you because his intelligence is always active within you, and his ideas seek expression as protection, guidance, provision, and health. But how do you distinguish the guidance of an angel, the voice of higher consciousness, from the whisper of fear in disguise? The angel always speaks with peace. The divine voice never rushes you or agitates you. Its instructions are clear, gentle, unequivocal, leaving behind a trace of serenity. Fear, in contrast, is loud, urgent, confusing, and leaves only anxiety in its wake. Learn to listen to that inner voice that speaks in silence, that does not impose, yet whose authority is unmistakable. To practice this teaching, stop now, close your eyes, and perform this meditation to connect with your guardian angel. Breathe deeply and say internally, "I acknowledge the presence of God within me. I open my mind to divine wisdom. I am willing to receive guidance and protection. I know that the voice of God within me guides me now, and I trust that every idea arising from peace, love, and light is my guardian angel. Thank you, because this is so." Remain in silence for a few minutes, simply listening, allowing your higher consciousness to be heard effortlessly. When life presents a crossroads, a delicate decision, or a sudden threat, practice the listening exercise. Ask yourself calmly, does this idea arise from peace or fear? Does it leave me serene or agitated? Does it promote good or lock me into worry? The true path always opens, it never closes. It always illuminates, it never darkens. Make this affirmation your daily reminder. Divine intelligence always guides and protects me. I am receptive to the angels of God, the wise ideas, clear intuitions, thoughts of peace and love. Thank you, because I am never alone. The great biblical stories illustrate this principle beautifully. Daniel was saved in the lion's den because God sent his angel, which closed the mouths of the lions. Daniel 6:22. Was this a miraculous appearance, or the manifestation in his consciousness of absolute security, a high thought that blocked fear and allowed protection? Peter was freed from prison when an angel of the Lord opened the doors. Acts 12:7. The external doors opened because first, within him, Peter let in the idea of good, of liberation, of trust. Open your mind to divine guidance with this brief treatment. I acknowledge, accept, and follow the guidance of God within me. My angels are thoughts of wisdom, protection, and good. I listen, obey, and act with faith. Thank you, God, for always guiding me in time. Now practice obedience to intuition, the voice that does not shout but never errs. When you feel a serene prompt, not an anxious hunch but a calm whisper, follow it. Say, "This is my angel, I trust and obey." You will discover that life becomes a safe journey, guided and protected at every moment, even without understanding every reason for each instant. It is vital to distinguish between angelic superstition and scientific understanding. Do not place your faith in amulets, images, or empty rituals. The angel is not outside you, nor does it live in external symbols. It is in your mind, in your soul, in the divine spark that thinks for you and through you. True protection comes from consciousness, not external formulas. Make each elevated thought a messenger of good. Close this chapter with a practical reflection. The next time you feel an impulse toward good, a serene warning, or sudden clarity, recognize, "This is my angel, the intelligence of God, caring for me." Give thanks and move forward with confidence, knowing that the angels of God accompany you always, as long as your mind and heart remain aligned with truth. Chapter 7. No harm shall befall you, understanding spiritual immunity. No harm shall befall you, no plague shall touch your dwelling. So proclaims Psalm 91. This promise, as bold as it is absolute, has intrigued generations. Is it truly possible to live a life immune to evil? Does it not contradict human experience, which often seems marked by pain, loss, illness, or accident? The key to understanding this statement is not found in the external world, but in the spiritual law of cause and effect, operating unceasingly on the mental plane. The law of cause and effect is infallible. Every thought sown in the mind, whether conscious or unconscious, is a seed cast into the field of experience. What you reap in life, whether good or ill, is always the fruit of previous mental causes. Just as nature cannot be deceived, the mental law allows no exceptions. It is neither punishment nor arbitrary reward. It is simply the projection of your consciousness onto the canvas of existence. Here lies the great secret. The consciousness of God produces automatic immunity, not because it transforms your life into a garden free from challenges, but because, as you dwell mentally in the principle, nothing discordant can penetrate your circle of protection. Just as a powerful light does not allow shadows to enter, so consciousness saturated with God prevents evil from finding a doorway. This protection is not a magical wall, but a reflection of your inner state. Immunity does not depend on God's arbitrary will, but on your alignment with His law. Yet what happens when, despite our best intention, evil seems to manifest? What should we do when the theory of spiritual immunity collides with the experience of loss, illness, or injury? Here, honesty is essential. Truth never contradicts itself, but our application is often partial, fragmented, or incomplete. This is not about foolish denial or mental escape. It is about a deep and compassionate examination of our consciousness. The difference between magical protection and scientific protection is crucial. Magical protection waits for favors without cause, for amulets that bypass law, for exemptions from the workings of the mind. Scientific protection, on the other hand, understands that every experience reflects a mental content, and only sustained work in consciousness can produce stable, lasting results. It is not about expecting miracles disconnected from law, but about transforming the inner field, step by step. When something negative occurs, do not blame yourself or fall into the trap of destructive self-criticism. Instead, engage in an honest, loving self-examination. What hidden beliefs have I held? At what moments did I give power to fear, resentment, or insecurity? What mental habit allowed this experience to enter? This examination is not to generate guilt, but to identify and correct the cause. Just as a gardener removes weeds without hating the soil, you can clear your mind with gratitude and purpose. Perform the following spiritual treatment to establish mental immunity to fear. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and affirm, "I am a child of God, one with the presence that protects all. No harm can penetrate my atmosphere, for the light of God is my shield. My mind rejects all thoughts of fear, separation, or danger. I now accept spiritual immunity as my birthright. Thank you, God, because this is so." As a practical exercise, take a few minutes to trace past experiences. Choose a painful or challenging situation and ask yourself, in what state of consciousness was I at that time? What thoughts, words, or attitudes did I sow before that episode? Do not judge, observe. You will often discover that the harm experienced is the sometimes delayed harvest of mental seeds planted carelessly or in ignorance. Complete immunity is not instant for most. It is the fruit of gradual transformation, of conscious and patient work. Just as an athlete develops their body with daily training, so the spiritual seeker strengthens their mental atmosphere with vigilance, affirmation, and continual renewal. Do not be discouraged if perfection takes time. Every step in the consciousness of God is a step toward immunity. Remember, negative experiences are not punishments but signals. They are messengers indicating areas where consciousness still needs light, an invitation to deepen in truth, to correct the course, to affirm more strongly your unity with good. Do not fear the signal. Welcome it and redirect your thought. Make affirmations of divine immunity your daily companion. I dwell in the shelter of the Most High. Therefore no harm can reach me. The light of God surrounds me. His presence protects me. His love sustains me. His wisdom guides me. I live in the atmosphere of spiritual immunity. Spend a few minutes each day meditating on Psalm 91. Read slowly. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. He shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by day. No harm shall befall you, nor shall any plague come near your dwelling. Let these words penetrate your consciousness. Do not repeat them mechanically. Feel their truth as a completed fact within you. Develop a progressive plan to build spiritual immunity. Each morning, affirm your unity with God and your right to protection. During the day, mentally reject all thoughts of fear, insecurity, or separation. Perform a weekly examination of your mental atmosphere. What thoughts have dominated my week? At night, review the day, giving thanks for the protection received and asking for light to correct any dissonant beliefs. Be brutally honest with yourself. You cannot defy physical laws or tempt life expecting immunity by decree. Immunity comes from the level of consciousness, not recklessness. I do not promise that you can jump from a building unharmed, but I do assure that as your mind is purified and unified with the presence, fewer and fewer negative experiences will gain access to your life. Close this chapter with this profound affirmation. I grow each day in the consciousness of God. My life is gradually becoming a sanctuary of peace, security, and spiritual immunity. I trust the law, work on my mind, cultivate my faith. No harm can befall me because I dwell in truth and truth sustains me. Chapter 8. Protection in times of collective calamity. The external world, with its swings and storms, has never been a stage of permanent peace. Human history is marked by wars, epidemics, economic crises, earthquakes, and disasters that seem to sweep everything away. In such times, divine protection takes on an urgent and, for many, almost desperate dimension. Yet it is in collective crisis that individual consciousness proves its true stature. Here, faith becomes a living refuge, and right thinking becomes an impregnable fortress. The mass mentality is perhaps the most subtle and powerful force operating in human experience. It infiltrates the mind like an invisible wind, carrying opinions, fears, superstitions, and dark expectations. When the crowd fears, the atmosphere fills with anxiety. When the crowd hates, violence seems inevitable. Many fail to recognize how deeply collective consciousness can shape individual experience, unwittingly becoming swept along by the storm. Have you ever wondered why, in the midst of widespread calamity, some remain unharmed while others succumb? It is not a matter of divine favoritism or blind luck. It is a matter of specific protection, the law of individual consciousness transcending the wave of mass thought. When a man or woman has cultivated a mind firm in God, that small mental circle acts as a safe island, even while the sea around them rages. Thus, during war, there were households protected amid bombings during epidemics, families preserved amid suffering, and in crises, individuals remained prosperous and serene while chaos reigned around them. Here lies a sacred principle. Individual consciousness aligned with God has the power to rise above the collective atmosphere. I do not ask you to deny the existence of crisis or minimize the suffering of others, but to recognize your duty to keep your mind clear, your heart steady, and your faith unshakable. Do not become a sponge for the fears of others. Do not feed on the terror of the media, nor absorb collective hysteria. Your thought is your fortress, your sanctuary, your refuge. Now perform the mental isolation treatment from collective fear. I recognize that the mass mind has no power over me. I am one with God, and I accept only truth in my consciousness. I reject all thoughts of fear, panic, or hopelessness from others. I dwell in peace and radiate peace. I am a center of divine protection amid the storm. During periods of crisis, make mental fortitude a daily practice. Upon waking, before hearing the news or speaking with others, Affirm your immunity to mental contagion. Resolve to be a source of calm, not a transmitter of anxiety. If the flow of external thoughts threatens to overwhelm you, retreat mentally to the secret place of the Most High, even for a moment. There, in God's consciousness, no collective storm can reach you. Learn the technique of detachment from the news. Observe it as one observes rain through a window. Be informed, but do not absorb it. Internally affirm, I see what occurs, but I do not take it in. I understand the suffering, but I do not make it mine. My mind is free, my peace is unshakable. In this way you can remain present in the world without being contaminated by its fear. In times of calamity, your spiritual responsibility is twofold. Protect your own atmosphere, and from that elevated place be a beacon for others. Do not fall into the egoistic trap of thinking, I am protected, let others fend for themselves, nor into the absurd martyrdom of believing you must suffer with everyone. Balance is the law. Keep your consciousness elevated so that you may help, support, pray, and act from strength, not from weakness. History provides countless examples. People have passed through wars unharmed, navigated epidemics without infection, emerged from collective bankruptcies with renewed abundance, all through the power of thought aligned with truth. Their faith was not isolated from the suffering of others, but neither was it contaminated by it. They were pillars of light amid darkness, and often their serenity saved many around them. Practice this exercise. Whenever you hear alarming news, pause and affirm, nothing external can penetrate the atmosphere of my consciousness. I am a center of peace and protection, and I radiate confidence and serenity to my world. Adopt the prayer for collective peace. God of mercy, recognize the needs of this world. Let peace, wisdom, and protection reign in the hearts of all. May my light dissolve collective fear and awaken true faith in every soul. I contribute with my elevated thought to the restoration of good. Thank you, for so it is. Make affirmations of immunity to mass consciousness your shield. I do not accept the fear of the world, only the good of God. I am immune to the panic of the world because I dwell in the presence of God. Practice the meditation of the inner refuge. Close your eyes, breathe, and visualize a space of light and serenity within your heart. There, the noise of the world cannot enter. Dwell in that secret place, even if only for a few minutes each day. Let the peace expand first within you, then into your words, then into your surroundings. In this way, you become an influence for good. Always remember, true help for the world does not come from multiplying fear, but from raising the general level of consciousness. Maintain an elevated atmosphere without falling into selfish isolation or futile sacrifice. The most useful light is the one that remains lit in the night, not the one that goes out in compassion. Close this chapter with the following affirmation. In times of crisis, I am a fortress and a refuge. I do not absorb the fear of the world. I radiate peace and protection to all around me. I trust in the presence of God, and I know that my consciousness, firm in truth, can transform even the most hostile environment. Thank you, for so it is. Chapter 9. Protecting your loved ones, treatment for others. True love is not fear, constant worry, or anxious vigilance over the lives of those we care for. Yet who has not felt the temptation to protect with thought, prayer, or sleepless concern those who fill the heart? Here a profound and little understood truth emerges. You cannot protect others through worry. Anxiety for loved ones, far from helping them, sends a current of negative energy, a silent but powerful message that says, I do not trust in your well-being. I do not trust in God working in your life. This vibration, though never expressed in words, weighs upon children, spouses, or absent friends. It is a mental cloud that envelops, limits, and interferes with the workings of the good. To love someone does not mean to fear for them. Fearing for someone is the most harmful form of love. How then can we protect those we love without manipulating or violating their free will? The key lies in the correct scientific treatment, one that does not force, invade, or condition, but elevates, sustains, and trusts. When you pray from faith rather than fear, when you visualize light instead of danger, when you bless rather than fear, you create a protective mental atmosphere where good can operate freely. Working with children is a privileged opportunity to exercise this protective atmosphere. Little ones are especially receptive to adult thought. They perceive, even without understanding, the vibration of their parents' confidence or fear. A child surrounded by thoughts of peace, security, and love grows strengthened, open to good, and less vulnerable to negative influences. Do not encase them in your fears. Envelop them in your faith. It is important to distinguish between praying for someone and praying over someone. Praying for someone is to intercede, elevate consciousness, affirm the good and protection, trusting in divine wisdom. Praying over someone is trying to impose your will, dictate their path, or control the outcome. The first frees, the second binds. Learn to release the outcome. Once the treatment is complete, place your loved ones in God's hands. Trust that infinite love knows more and sees farther than your human eyes. Letting go is the greatest proof of faith and the highest manifestation of love. Here is the treatment formula for loved ones in dangerous or challenging situations. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and mentally affirm, I recognize Name as a child of God, surrounded by divine light, guided and protected at all times. I do not fear for their safety. I fully trust in God's wisdom and love acting in their life. I bless their path, release my fear, and give thanks because this is so. If fear returns, do not fight it. Perform the prayer of release. I release the fear for Name. I place it in God's hands, knowing that divine protection is perfect. And my love is not fear, but trust. Thank you, God, for caring for them better than I ever could. Practice visualization. Imagine your loved one enveloped in light, a soft golden glow surrounding them wherever they are. Do not imagine details or follow their journey. Simply visualize the light and affirm that the light of God surrounds them, wisdom guides them, love sustains them. Do this without clinging, without anxiety for the outcome. Do not hold them. Bless them and let them be free. When worry threatens to arise, transform that energy into faith. Internally affirm, I change my concern into blessing. I choose to trust. I choose to bless. I choose to rest in the certainty of good. Make this a daily practice. Each time you think of your loved ones, bless them. Do not fear, do not fret, do not imagine dangers. Feel and affirm. God is their shield. God is their guide. God is their savior. I am at peace. Teach your children, your spouse, your friends that true love trusts. Demonstrate with your serenity, joy, and faith that living under the shadow of the Most High is a right, not a privilege reserved for a few. The atmosphere of your mind is the atmosphere that those who live with you breathe. Close this chapter with affirmations of faith for each loved one. Name is surrounded by the presence of God. Nothing can separate them from the good. They walk in faith, they trust in love, and rest in peace. Remember, the greatest gift you can give those you love is not your anxiety, but your certainty. Not your fear, but your blessing. Not your vigilance, but your release into the love that never fails. Chapter 10. Protection of Home, Possessions, and Provision. Many believe spirituality concerns only souls and distant heavens, while material matters, home, possessions, money, are left to chance, human effort, or daily worry. But this separation is an error. God, the principle of life, expresses himself in all planes, and true spirituality embraces everything from the most sublime thought to the most concrete need. Divine love does not ignore your possessions, your sustenance, or your daily security. It includes and surrounds them because good is total and divine protection is comprehensive. Why does God care about your material affairs? Because you are his child, a living expression of his intelligence and love. Just as a good parent cares for both the soul and the body of a child, divine providence watches over every detail of your existence. Home, possessions, work, and money are not outside God's kingdom. They are instruments, vehicles, channels through which life expresses itself. Spiritual dignity includes material security, yet the human mind, conditioned for centuries by fear, has learned to live between the anxiety of loss and attachment to retain. The result is insecurity, a sense of threat, fear of theft, damage, or unexpected loss. Divine protection applied to material matters begins when you recognize that your possessions are not absolutely yours. They are entrusted to you as steward of good. You are not the owner, but the administrator. A good administrator cares with love, without fear, without obsession. To protect your home and possessions, the first step is to mentally dedicate them to God. Make your house a sanctuary of the Spirit, not a refuge of fear. Every object, every space, every resource can be blessed and enveloped in the atmosphere of good. Practice this treatment. God is the presence in this home. Every wall, door, and window is guarded by divine love and wisdom. No harm, theft, or loss can penetrate here, because this home is a temple of peace, harmony, and prosperity. I give thanks because this is so. When fear of loss arises, practice detachment. Ask yourself, what am I truly clinging to, the thing or the good it represents? If you lose something material, the good it represented can return in another form, for the source is not the object, but God. Repeat, my security is not in things, but in the principle of abundance. All I need comes from God, and nothing external can take from me what good provides. Financial security is not a matter of numbers, contracts, or external circumstances. It is a state of consciousness, a deep feeling of trust in divine provision. Scarcity and fear of loss are mental states that, once installed, attract experiences of lack. Consciousness of abundance, however, establishes a protective field around your resources. Use this affirmation as your shield. God is my inexhaustible source. My provision is secure, constant, and protected. Every channel of good is sustained and renewed by divine intelligence. Practice spiritual stewardship. See your possessions as blessings to manage, share, care for, and multiply, not as properties to defend anxiously. Give thanks for every good, small or large, and take responsibility for it with wisdom and detachment. The freer you are from fear of loss, the more stable and secure your material world will be. In the face of apparent loss, practice this treatment. Nothing real can be lost. What belongs to God in me remains safe. If something goes, it is because something better is coming or because life is teaching me to release in order to receive more. I trust divine order in all my affairs. Do not confuse spiritual detachment with indifference or negligence. Caring and protecting is not clinging. It is honoring life in all its forms. The error is idolizing the object, not recognizing its temporal value. When you put God first, everything else takes its natural and safe place. Make affirmations of protected prosperity part of your daily life. I live in God's abundance and security. My possessions are under the law of good. Each day I am sustained and guided in the use and enjoyment of everything that belongs to me by divine right. If you need financial or material protection, practice this continuous prayer. I give thanks to God for daily provision. Every resource that enters my life is blessed, protected, and multiplied. I do not fear loss or harm because my trust is in the source, not in the channels. I live in peace, manage wisely, give thanks, and release fear. Always balance detachment with the recognition that God wants your needs met. Poverty is not a virtue, nor is wealth an end in itself. True freedom is to be master neither of having nor of losing. Close this chapter by affirming, I dedicate my home, possessions, and resources to God. I know I am protected, guided, and sustained in every aspect of my material life. I live with gratitude, care with wisdom, and release the fear of loss because my good is secure in God. Chapter 11. When protection seems to fail, managing apparent failures. No sincere seeker walks the spiritual path without sooner or later facing the painful disorientation of adverse experiences. What should one do when, despite prayer, affirmation, and careful practice, difficulty still occurs? How can we reconcile the promise of divine protection with the concrete reality of suffering, loss, or accident? This is the most honest and necessary test in spiritual life, and only from truth, without evasion or self-blame, can light be drawn from darkness. First, it is vital to understand that appearances do not always reflect immediate spiritual truth. The visible world is a stage where mental causes, both conscious and unconscious, sometimes manifest with delay, sometimes indirectly. An adverse appearance does not mean the absence of God, nor the suspension of the law, nor arbitrary punishment. It means that the mental law, just as exact as gravity, has produced an effect from a certain content of consciousness. There are no culprits, no victims, only the operation of law. The notion of karmic lessons has been misinterpreted as punishment or inescapable destiny. In truth, every difficult experience carries a message, an opportunity to recognize a limiting belief or a wrong mental attitude and correct the course. It is not a test sent by a capricious deity, nor a debt imposed from a mysterious past. It is simply the harvest of mental seeds, often sown unconsciously. Life does not seek to punish, but to awaken. When spiritual treatment seems ineffective, when adversity occurs despite your best efforts, It is not a failure of principle, but of application. Divine law is infallible. What is imperfect is our understanding, our constancy, our mastery over mental habits. A physician does not curse the law of health when a treatment fails, but revises the diagnosis, the dosage, and the patient's discipline. Likewise, in the spiritual realm, it is necessary to review our own process with humility and honesty. Forgive yourself for not having attained perfect consciousness. Do not judge yourself or fall into the trap of guilt. Every human is on a path, and even in each misstep, there is evolution. The gravest error is not failing, but remaining bound to remorse. Law does not punish the past, it always responds to the current content of the mind. When facing a difficult experience, practice this treatment for negative situations. Close your eyes and affirm with humility and determination. I acknowledge that I have experienced pain, loss, or failure. I do not deny the facts, but I deny that they have power to stop my growth. I now claim the lesson and the hidden good in this experience. I release guilt, I release fear, I release the past. I open my consciousness to restoration, peace, and divine renewal. Thank you, God, for making each situation an opportunity to advance. Practice self-examination without self-condemnation. Ask honestly, what belief was operating in my mind before this experience? Where did I give power to fear, doubt, guilt, or resentment? Observe, record, learn, not to punish yourself, but to liberate and transform. Make forgiveness a constant habit. Forgive yourself for not knowing more. Forgive others for the role they played in the experience. And if necessary, forgive God. That is, release the idea of a creator who allows evil. Remember, God is only good, only law, only love. Humans interpret, project, and sometimes err. Spiritually reframe every experience. Ask yourself, what good can emerge from this apparent misfortune? What virtue, strength, or understanding awakens in me through this difficulty? The story of Job teaches that restoration comes after trial. Job lost, wept, and doubted, yet he never abandoned the search for meaning, and in the end, he received twice as much as he had. Job 42:10. This is the law. It always restores those who remain faithful to truth, even if they falter along the way. Embrace these affirmations of renewal. Every difficulty is a stepping stone to greater understanding. I release the past and allow life to restore me. The hidden good now manifests in my experience. God is my restorer, and His law works for my benefit here and now. Dedicate a few minutes to meditation on Job's restoration. Visualize that after the dark night, the sun returns. Feel the presence sustaining you even in uncertainty. Recognize that no loss is final, and that good, being infinite, always has more to give. Spirituality does not deny pain nor minimize it. It transcends it. The true seeker transforms apparent failure into a source of growth, learning, and inner strength. Close this chapter with a simple but powerful prayer. I give thanks for the opportunity to grow, even through difficulty. I release guilt, complaint, and fear. I embrace the good, claim restoration, and move forward in faith. I know God never fails, and every experience draws me closer to wholeness. Chapter 12, Living in the Shadow of the Almighty, the Protected Lifestyle. Living day by day under the shadow of the Almighty is not a distant ideal, nor a privilege reserved for saints or ascetics. It is the natural destiny of every human being who consciously and persistently chooses to make the presence of God their dwelling, not just a refuge in the storm. Here the path culminates, where teaching and practice intertwine to form the tapestry of a safe, free, joyful, and fruitful life. What is the daily life of someone who truly dwells in the Most High? It is a life marked, above all, by deep and constant peace, a serenity inexplicable even amid the bustle of the world. This does not mean the absence of challenges, but a state in which nothing external can disturb the center of the self. The soul that lives in God rests in the certainty that, whatever the scenario, all is under divine law, all is contained within divine protection. To maintain this awareness, it is essential to cultivate specific mental habits. The first habit is remembrance, to remember who you are, the truth, and the presence of God. This remembrance is nurtured through small practices throughout the day: serene affirmations, pauses for prayer, moments of gratitude, and glances at the sky that evoke the invisible within the visible. The second habit is vigilance, observing the thoughts that cross your mind and gently but firmly discarding those that sow fear, judgment, criticism, or doubt. Nothing protects as much as maintaining a clean and elevated mental atmosphere. When faced with news, conversations, or daily situations, those who dwell in the Most High learn to filter, to choose, to discern. It is not indifference, but practical wisdom. Listen to the world, but decide what will nourish your heart. Engage in conversation, but guide your words toward hope, faith, and the possible good. If something unsettling crosses your path, pause, breathe, and affirm, God is here. Nothing can disturb the peace of my soul. Repeat this as often as necessary until truth eclipses all appearances. The freedom that comes from attachment to nothing is the greatest gift you can attain in this plane. It is the freedom of the child who plays knowing the Father is near. The freedom of one who walks through life with firm steps, conscious that no evil can truly touch them. This freedom does not generate arrogance, isolation, or hardness. On the contrary, it softens the character, broadens the heart, transforms the protected into a protector, and the blessed into a living blessing for others. Being a light in a world of fear is not a cross, a burden, or a title. It is the natural consequence of elevated consciousness. You do not need to proclaim your security. Simply radiate serenity. Where others see danger, you see an opportunity for faith. Where others yield to panic, you offer calm. But beware of confusing recklessness with faith. Faith is not blindly defying common sense. It is knowing that true security comes from God, not from temerity. Living from the promise is living with the constant expectation of good, knowing that each day is a new opportunity to manifest the kingdom here and now. Spiritual longevity. Spiritual longevity is not just living many years, but living each day fully. Daily plan for a protected life. Morning. Dedicate a few minutes to establishing your atmosphere. Affirm, today I choose to live under the shadow of the Almighty. Every step is guided, every moment protected, every word inspired. Throughout the day, return to your secret place through small pauses. In every challenge, remember, God goes before me, and nothing can prevail against His presence. Evening, review your day in silence. Where were you in God consciousness? Where did you forget? Without judgment, decide to return to awareness whenever necessary. Weekly check. Ask yourself, what thoughts dominated my mind this week? Did I react with fear or faith? Am I practicing scientific prayer, the treatment, the negation of evil? Bless, trust, release, reaffirm. Make the spiritual treatment your daily declaration. I dwell under the shadow of the Almighty. No evil can befall me because I live in God's presence. My mind is a refuge of truth. My life is testimony to good. I am protected, guided, and sustained at all times. Love surrounds me, wisdom guides me, and peace accompanies me. So it is, because such is the law of God. Renew your personal commitment. I commit to living in the Most High. I consciously choose to dwell in truth, protect my mental atmosphere, and be a channel of good for those around me. Nothing external has power over me. Good is my destiny, peace my inheritance, and faith my shield. Envision your future, a life without fear. Imagine what you would do, attempt, or dream if you knew with absolute certainty that nothing can truly harm you. Let this vision inspire your next steps. Conclude this journey with meditation on Psalm 91 in its entirety. Read, feel, listen. Each promise, integrate its power into your being. Let every word, image, and affirmation envelop you. Make the psalm your map, your refuge, your invulnerable fortress. Final reflection. Do not seek protection as a distant goal. Make it your way of being. Remember that every step in God consciousness is a step towards safety, freedom, and fullness. You do not arrive. You walk. You do not conquer. You dwell. Every correct thought, every prayer, every affirmation, every forgiveness, every act of faith is another stone in the fortress of your life. And thus you will live not as a visitor, but as a dweller, under the shadow of the Almighty, in a protected, free, and luminous lifestyle, a living testimony of the eternal promise. I will be with him in distress, deliver him and glorify him. I will satisfy him with long life and show him my salvation.